Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and we have a very special guest with us today, and his name is Tavarus. So welcome to the show, Tavarus.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So before I do that, I want to say, whenever you sent me the information to come and record and all of that, I was like, you were saying it was going to be a short episode. And I was thinking, no, I want this to be the longest podcast. And then I looked at your notes and you had one that was 56 and 46 and 49. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be the longest one. But I will say I was intrigued by a lot of the episodes that I saw. You've got some great episodes that you've already done.
Thank you.
And listen, hopefully today we'll add to that.
So yeah, who are you? What do you do? And then we're going to kind of move into a little bit of why he's here today.
Yeah, so who am I, Tavarus Hogans? I do a lot of things. I don't want to say I'm a serial entrepreneur. That can be kind of cliche. But I do have a couple things that I've dabbled in. The most consistent thing that I've done when I left the corporate space, I was in the corporate space about 17 years. I was consulting for a couple more years in the wine and spirits industry. But when I moved from the corporate space to consulting, the first thing I did was start a CBD company. And that's the most consistent thing that I've been doing. In addition to that, starting a coaching practice, coaching entrepreneurs, small business owners. Now I've transitioned that into coaching athletes that are transitioning from sports to their next season of life. And the constant that has been there has kind of been CBD, plant medicine, and all of that type stuff. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I do.
So the CBD company, it's called TrueSeven, right?
Yes.
All right. So tell us about TrueSeven, and then how did you get into it? You came from the corporate world. Everyone in the corporate world needs CBD, but kind of what got you into it? What got you started?
It's crazy. I mean, nothing happens by accident. So I had a neighbor and a couple other individuals that kept mentioning CBD. Mm-hmm. The Farm Bill was passed in 2018. And when I first heard it, I just assumed it was another fad, like,
right.
Noni juice and all this other stuff, Amway, just another fad. But after about the sixth time, I got an email from a trusted advisor, and I was like, let me investigate this thing. I got some great information from him, went to a conference, and just heard countless stories about how CBD had helped so many families and military veterans and athletes. And I knew, leaving the corporate space, I wanted to be in an industry where I was making an impact. And the stories that I heard were just outstanding on how CBD had impacted people. And I knew I wanted to have it in my repertoire for pretty much the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of us that leave that corporate space, we're looking for a way to help people or give back or just do better. And so this kind of makes sense because this kind of segues into, you're not only able now to help people with supplying CBD, but you guys have a CBD product for dogs. So tell us a little bit about that product and the benefits of it.
Yeah, so when I started my company, I think I started out with like 45 different SKUs. I mean, new entrepreneur, I was excited about it. And I suffered from having too much capital, in my opinion, when I was getting started, and I wasted a lot of money. I've been able to slowly get rid of a lot of those SKUs, but interestingly enough, our number one seller, to probably not a lot of people's surprise, is pet CBD. Mm-hmm. And I started out with a 250 milligram pet CBD because I didn't really know, how people would respond to it. The pet demographic, those of us that know about it, obviously your listeners love pets more than people.
Oh, 100%. My dogs eat better than me. They have better supplements than me. I love my dogs more than most people. So yeah.
Yeah, they go to the spa more often than
they
you.
Really
they
do.
take better showers than you, the whole nine.
Yeah.
So started out with a 250 milligram pet CBD. And then I had to move up to what we have now, which is a 500 milligram. So, we can use the same product to treat larger dogs, plus a smaller dosage of this same product will go a lot further with smaller dogs. But our pet CBD, which in my opinion, and what I've seen anecdotally, there's straight CBD, which is isolate. There's full spectrum, broad spectrum. We've gotten positive results, and there are studies out there that pets can take any type of CBD out there, full spectrum, broad spectrum, or isolate based. The one that I use, it's a chicken flavored and isolate based. We also have beef and we have peanut butter. Didn't want to bring peanut butter in because pets have nut allergies, similar to people. And, chicken has been the flavor that's done the best. So we have a 500 milligram chicken flavored pet isolate based CBD product that just does extremely well.
Yeah. So our dogs take CBD mostly for inflammation. Kind of along with inflammation for their arthritis, to help their joints. We have 2 senior dogs that take it kind of for that purpose. And then our youngest takes it for anxiety. Yeah. And so it's multifaceted in everything that it's good for. Have you seen anecdotally like any remarkable cases of anything that it's helped with as far as your customer base goes?
Yeah, so we have 2 min pens, my wife and I, and our first min pens have a history of like heart problems. And our first min pen, unfortunately passed from a heart attack. It's crazy that dogs have heart attacks.
Yeah.
And we had started dosing her a little bit on CBD. We didn't stay on top of it like we should have. The min pen that we have now, he's 15 years old, and you would never know. Like, he has the energy of probably a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
But we've been giving him CBD. He has knee problems. He has, other issues, but I feel like the CBD working in conjunction with some of the other over-the-counter drugs have really helped stabilize him. And every time we take him in for heart checkups, there's been, no movement, no increase of any negative markers. So at home specifically, that's a case where I believe CBD has directly impacted his health and well-being.
That's awesome. And that's one of those ones I actually hadn't even heard of or really thought of, because like you said, you don't think about dogs having heart attacks. So it's just not at the forefront of your mind. You know they get arthritis, they get bad knees, bad back, but you don't think about heart issues, So tell people, where can they find the TrueSevenCBD?
Yeah, and back to some of the pet stuff, like it's crazy, and sometimes it's heartbreaking, as a pet owner, hearing about, cancer and seizures in dogs. And it's just like having a kid, there's nothing you can do,
right?
But, try to make them as comfortable as possible. But where you can find our products, we're an online store. We do show up at a lot of the local pop-ups here in Jacksonville, but online we're at www.TrueSevenCBD.com, and you can spell 7 out, or you can use the integer 7, TRUE7CBD.com. And yeah, we've got some specials that we will discuss in a little bit for your listening audience. But yeah, online, www.TrueSevenCBD.com.
So what they've set up for everyone listening to this is, if you purchase CBD online from their website and use the code K910, CANINE10, that will get you 10% off. And in addition to that, when using that code, $1 of that purchase will go to the Papillon Pals Rescue here in Jacksonville, Florida. So you guys are getting a discount, and we are helping a local rescue in Jacksonville, Florida that does a lot of great work. And if you guys have been listening to me for a while, one of my senior dogs actually came from that rescue. That rescue is very near and dear to my heart. I love the work that Tammy is doing over there at Papillon Pals. And so we appreciate TrueSeven giving back to that.
So before we leave, I want to talk about some of these titles and topics, because one thing that caught my interest was acupuncture, and then mushrooms for pets and all of that. Talk to me about acupuncture in pets, and then from that, let's transition to mushrooms.
So the acupuncture started back in 2016. I had a Pomeranian with cancer.
So you have experience with it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I have a dog with cancer. I'm doing everything I can. I'm researching. We're doing a keto diet, working with someone out of Texas. We're seeing an oncologist. We're seeing everyone. And at the time, I was managing a vitamin shop, so kind of in a position of health, wellness, working with like-minded people. And I had a regular come in, and he said, "Well, has your dog done acupuncture?" And I was like, "That's silly. I would never waste my money." And he said, "No, I promise you."
But you would.
He said, "It'll change your life. It'll change her life. I promise you, you will not be disappointed." So I said, "You know what? I've done it all. I have already spent thousands and thousands of dollars. Let's do it. What's another couple $100?" So we go in. They're at Jack's Beach, the acupuncturist. We still go to the same facility. And I said, she hasn't been eating lately. They put the needles in. We sit there. We're there for about an hour total, because they really learn about your dog. They work with them. They sit on the floor. They try to read their energy. So they do all the little spots. We come home and she eats. And I'm like, nah. I'm like, nah. She's just hungry from the car ride. So we go back, I don't know, a couple weeks later. And I was like, oh, she's not sleeping. Bop, 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 do a few points. Comes home, sleeps 8 hours. And I'm like, what? There's no way this is real. So I start going more and more and taking her and truly seeing that difference. And it was crazy because they kind of knew when she got to the end. So they were able to help me. I couldn't see it. You're blind to it and you lie to yourself and you're selfish with your time and with your dog. But they were able to help me with that. Yeah. So always kind of been into, I guess, what you can call the woo-woo stuff, because it's worked, For
sure.
So now we take the two seniors, and I mean, it's remarkable how well it works for their joint pain and for the different issues, mobility issues. Mm-hmm. Titan is 12 years old, but he plays like a 4-year-old puppy, and no one would believe that he's 12.
Right.
And then kind of segueing into the mushrooms.
So questions about acupuncture. My concern would be, because it's still needles and they're not painless. There's like a little poke. How can the dogs be still with those needles in there?
So they do a permission point, and it's right on the dog's forehead. So if they put that in and the dog freaks out or flails, it's like, we can't do this acupuncture. Okay. If the dog just sits there, you're pretty much good to go. So for Stony, she doesn't care about any of the needles other than the ones kind of like in the back of her front legs. Yeah. Titan is a baby, and so he doesn't normally want acupuncture. He'll do acupressure, or he'll do like a laser, and they'll laser the same spots that they would do acupuncture on. Yeah. So they do make sure that they can tolerate them. And almost always, while you're sitting there with the needles in, the dog just sits or lays down, very relaxed, very calm. And what's nice is the vets here, they kind of establish that relationship. So your dog is very calm while they're there. They're not freaking out, running around. And I mean, how busy they are speaks to the efficacy of their practice. Right. I mean, you can't get an appointment now for months. It's fantastic for neurological disorders, for pulmonary issues, for joints, arthritis, aging in general. So I mean, I would venture to say that the acupuncture on dogs is seemingly more effective than acupuncture on humans.
That's crazy.
And it might be kind of I feel like if you're doing acupuncture for dogs, you truly care and you've invested your time to learn that. And for people, it might not be the same. You might just be doing it to turn a quick buck. And I hate to say it like that, but I just feel like there's that added passion and
for sure.
That like want and need to heal these dogs or to help these dogs.
Absolutely. No, that's good. That's good. Wow. Mushrooms.
So, I mean, they've been trendy for a while. And like you said about CBD, for a while, it's like, this is just a trend, blah, blah, blah. I've had a lot of friends that have had success with shaga, lion's mane, turkey tail, you name it. Yep. And so I started researching a little bit more on my own. And that's how I found that company, Real Mushrooms, and reading some of those studies and how like turkey tail is really helpful with cancer. Lion's mane is really helpful with cognitive disorders and dementia. And then you've got some other ones that help like with anxiety and calming you down. And so the same way that it's effective for people, a lot of people are doing like mushroom coffee or adding it to their protein shakes. The same is true for dogs. Mm-hmm. And so that's been kind of exciting to add into our dog's diet. The biggest change we've seen is in Stony. She hasn't been displaying as many signs of dementia. She's not as like forgetful. She's not kind of walking around wondering where she's at. And that's been a pretty quick turnaround. Yeah. For Titan on Turkey Tail, it's hard to say at this point if it's done anything, because really after that cancer scare earlier this year, removing that cancerous tumor, he had a big tumor removed. We don't know internally if the Turkey Tail's done anything yet. We can only hope that it has. And then for Napoleon with his anxiety, so he's on like the blend, that's a little bit of a work in progress. And that's because of his history with trazodone. So he was taking enough trazodone for basically 10 dogs and doing that solid for a year. And so coming off of that and facing all of those neurological issues, we are still toying with how much CBD, how many mushrooms, how much fish oil, what combination works best for him, what diet is best for his mind and to kind of put him at ease. So we're still kind of playing with the mushrooms for the dogs. And then even like as humans, I know like Chaga is really good for lung capacity and it's good for athletes. So that's something that I'm looking to kind of get into. But kind of just getting back to that natural medicine, we've all kind of been led to believe that the only option is this prescription, and look where it's gotten us. I can't say that anyone's really seen a solid progression. Now that's not true for everything, but just for everyday longevity and just living the healthiest life you can live, just back to basics. If it grows out of the ground and it's a plant and we can harvest it, it's probably something we can do. And it's been done for hundreds of years. So I think a big part of like our mission is, like I said, getting back to basics.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tom Brady said that, he's probably said it many years, but he said something that resonated with me. And he said, just because it's in the grocery store, it doesn't mean it's food.
Right.
I mean, you look at things like, I love Twizzlers. That's not food. I mean, what is that? Fruit roll-ups. What is that? That's not food. So I'm trying to get back to eating food. Like, I don't want to generalize and say they, but those things are on the shelf versus things like mushrooms and things that people ate off of years and years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we're being told not to eat that, but that's not on the shelves.
Right.
And other things are on the shelves. So
same for dogs. I mean, look at how commercialized dog food has gotten. And I think you've seen in the past few years a movement to get back to whole natural food, whether that's a raw diet or it's some kind of cooked blend, or like Dr. Harvey's, they do like freeze-dried vegetables and you mix them in with a protein. And so I think we're going to keep seeing more of this movement for both pets and humans, because we've had a lot of time to think over the past few years. We've been alone at home with our thoughts. We've seen a lot of things. And so I'd like to think that we are all kind of learning together.
Awesome. Well, listen, I'm going to shout out some of these episodes because I was impressed. I mean, mushrooms, skin conditions, and pet dermatology. I hadn't had a chance to listen because I didn't want to taint the interview, but I'm going to go back and listen to all of these. The Natural Dog Company, breed-specific episodes, arthritis. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff on this podcast. So very impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being on today.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, so don't forget to go to the website for TrueSevenCBD and use K910 to get 10% off your purchase. All right, guys, talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.